Kenrick Sound is not a loudspeaker manufacturer. The company has never designed a driver of its own, and nearly everything it sells was originally built by someone else. And yet, among collectors of vintage JBL monitors, this name carries a weight comparable to established high-end brands. This is the story of a small Tokyo workshop that turned restoration into a business, a philosophy, and, for some listeners, a point of controversy. To understand why this company exists at all, it helps to first understand what happened between Japan and one particular family of American loudspeakers. In the early 1970s, JBL introduced a range of professional studio monitors known as the 43 series. These were large, serious instruments built for recording studios: the 4320, the 4331, the 4333, and eventually the model that changed everything, the 4343, introduced in the mid-1970s. A four-way design with a 15-inch woofer, a dedicated mid-bass driver, a horn-loaded compression driver, and an ultra-high frequency unit, all arranged on that instantly recognizable blue baffle. In its home market, the 4343 remained what it was designed to be, a professional tool. In Japan, it became a phenomenon. During the economic boom years, large JBL studio monitors moved out of recording studios and into living rooms. Owning a pair of 4343s became a statement, a symbol of having arrived. Japanese audio magazines placed them on covers, dedicated listening cafes built their reputations around them, and the models sold there in numbers that no studio monitor had any right to achieve. The larger double woofer models, the 4350 and later the 4355, occupied an even higher tier, speakers so large and demanding that owning them was less a purchase and more a commitment. Decades passed. JBL moved on to new professional lines and new consumer products. But in Japan, tens of thousands of these aging monitors remained in homes, studios, and jazz cafes, slowly deteriorating, losing magnet strength, drying out their suspensions, and waiting for someone to decide what their old age should look like. That someone turned out to be a photographer born in Tokyo in August of 1978, almost exactly when the 4343 was conquering the Japanese market. It is a coincidence he likes to mention himself, saying that since these speakers are older than he is, he treats them as his seniors. Kenji Hosoi did not come from the audio industry. As a child he was absorbed by building things, and at school he stood out in art and craft classes, winning prizes for painting and sculpture. He initially prepared for a science track at university, then switched late to fine arts, and failed the entrance exams, including for the Tokyo University of the Arts. Rather than give up, he left home and took a position as a newspaper scholarship student, delivering papers in exchange for funding while he continued studying. It is a small detail, but a telling one. The willingness to do slow, unglamorous work in service of a longer goal would later define his entire company. Hosoi went on to work as a photographer. He also became known for something unusual. He completely rebuilt the interior of his rented apartment with his own hands, so thoroughly that the result was featured on Japanese television and in magazines. Manual skill, visual taste, and an obsession with finish quality. The ingredients were all in place before a single loudspeaker entered the picture. Around 2004, Hosoi began restoring JBL 43 series monitors. What started as enthusiast activity grew into a website called JBL 43 Freak, which in December of 2007 was renamed Kenrick Sound. In November of 2009, the operation was formally incorporated as Kenrick Sound Company Limited, based in Tokyo's Ota Ward. It has remained deliberately small ever since, a team of roughly half a dozen people, every one of them a working technician. There is no separation between a sales counter and a workshop. The person who answers a customer's question is the person holding the soldering iron. Kenrick Sound describes its profession with a term of its own choosing: speaker restorer. Not a manufacturer, and not a repair shop. The distinction matters, because the work goes far beyond replacing a torn surround. A typical full restoration addresses every part of the loudspeaker. The Alnico magnets used in classic JBL drivers gradually lose strength over decades, so Kenrick re-magnetizes them, bringing motor strength back toward original specification. Cones are replaced or rebuilt where needed. Crossover networks are reconstructed with premium components, audiophile-grade capacitors and chokes, with internal wiring in silver, sheathed in Teflon. Cabinets are completely refinished, sometimes to original specification, sometimes in custom veneers and colors that JBL itself never offered: olive green, deep blues, piano finishes. And this is where the work crosses a line that matters to collectors. Remagnetizing a weakened magnet is restoration, returning a component to how it left the factory. Rewiring a crossover in silver is not. It is modification, and Kenrick makes no attempt to hide that. The company openly positions its upgraded builds as exceeding original factory standards, and sells its flagship interpretations under its own designation. The workshop also builds cabinets from scratch. Complete reproductions of the earliest 4350 have been produced as new units, assembled around restored vintage drivers. Through a partnership with a workshop in the United States, the company expanded its supply of the big double woofer models, the 4350 and 4355, which are increasingly difficult to source in good condition. And while JBL's large monitors remain the core of the business, they are not its limit. The workshop has serviced and modified other brands, including professional horn systems from the Japanese company Ray Audio, and handles vintage electronics alongside the speakers themselves. For most people outside Japan, the first encounter with Kenrick Sound happens on YouTube. The company's channel contains an enormous library of videos built up over many years, restorations in progress, finished systems playing jazz and vocal recordings in the listening room, and delivery videos showing completed monitors being installed in customers' homes, cafes, and bars across Japan. The recordings themselves are made with evident care, and for a large share of the audience, these videos are the closest they will ever come to hearing a fully restored 4343 or 4350. It is worth being honest about what a YouTube recording can and cannot convey. A camera microphone and a compressed stream are not a listening room. But as a document of this culture, the channel is unmatched. For many Western viewers, it was Kenrick's channel that first explained why Japan holds these particular loudspeakers in such regard. The channel also did something quieter and more important. It turned a local Tokyo workshop into an international name. Customers have shipped drivers to Japan from Hong Kong for restoration. Buyers have traveled from Singapore to visit the workshop and commission builds. Audio journalists from Europe and the United States have made the trip to Ota Ward as a kind of pilgrimage. Hosoi himself has appeared on Japanese television and radio, presented simply as what he is, a man whose job is restoring loudspeakers. None of this comes cheap, and this is where opinions divide. A fully restored large monitor from Kenrick Sound costs several times the price of an untouched used pair. In early 2024, for example, the company listed a restored early JBL 4341 at just under 3 million yen, roughly $20,000 at the time. Flagship KRS builds and reproduction projects sit higher still. For that money, a buyer could assemble a very serious modern system from current high-end manufacturers. The criticism follows naturally. Purists argue that silver wiring, modern capacitors, and custom finishes turn a historical artifact into something else, a derivative work wearing a JBL badge. Others point out that the company publishes no independent measurements, so claims of exceeding factory performance rest on listening impressions rather than data. And not every visitor to the Tokyo showroom has left convinced. Some experienced listeners have come away impressed by the craftsmanship but unmoved by the sound, at least in crowded demonstration conditions. The counter-argument is just as straightforward. These speakers are half a century old. Left alone, their magnets weaken, their suspensions harden, and their crossover capacitors drift far from specification. An untouched pair is not a pair that sounds the way it did in 1976. It is a pair that sounds like 50 years of decay. Kenrick's position is that faithful preservation of the listening experience sometimes requires intervention in the hardware, and that a rebuilt crossover playing music in a jazz cafe serves the legacy better than an original one failing quietly in storage. Both positions are defensible. What is not really in dispute is the standard of the physical work itself. Even skeptics of the modifications tend to acknowledge the cabinet finishing, the cleanliness of the rebuilds, and the depth of institutional knowledge about these specific designs, knowledge that JBL itself, several corporate owners later, no longer maintains in this form. There is a version of the audio industry where none of this would be necessary, where manufacturers supported their classic products indefinitely, kept parts in production, and treated their own history as an asset. That is not the industry that exists. When a loudspeaker line is discontinued, responsibility for its survival passes, in practice, to whoever cares enough to take it. In the case of JBL's great studio monitors, a significant part of that responsibility landed on a small building in Tokyo, run by a former photographer who failed his art school exams and found his canvas elsewhere. Whether Kenrick Sound is best understood as a restorer, a modernizer, or something in between, the practical result is the same. Monitors that would otherwise be sliding towards silence are playing music, being delivered, being heard, and being passed to a new generation of owners. That is not the same thing as being a legendary manufacturer, but it may be the reason some legendary products get to remain in the present tense at all. Thank you for watching. If you have experience with restored vintage monitors, or a firm opinion on originality versus modification, share it in the comments. And if you enjoy stories like this one, a like and a subscription help the channel continue.